Hey, Happy New Year. Happy 2026. This is Adventina, your host, and this is Girls in Bongo podcast. Today, I want to talk about something that is very dear to my heart, and this is about therapy and mental health, right? And as we are in this new year, we all have dreams, we all have goals, and at the beginning of every year, we write down what we want to see happen that year. And some of those things do manifest, and some don't. So, what happens when some of these things that you wrote down, that you were really hopeful that they would come to pass, they would happen, they would manifest, they don't? How do you feel about it? How is your mental health? How is your health? How is your, spiritual health? How is everything that has to do with you trusting God, the universe, yourself for you to have these things in your hands, and then unfortunately they did not mature. So I want to talk about the importance of doing inner work, and this is why I said therapy. I went to therapy for the first time in 2021, and I was that person that would laugh when someone talked about therapy. And I was also the person that would say, mental health, what do you mean mental health? I was skeptical because I grew up in a community where there's always people around you. There's always people to talk to. So it's easy to feel that whatever you have in your chest, once you speak it to someone, you release it and you're good to go. And it works. I'm not going to say that it doesn't work. It does work. However, after being in a situation where I felt like I did not have the answers, and there were too many voices around me that I would communicate, I would say my frustrations, and they would give me feedback, and there would be so many advices coming from different corners. But I had to get clarity. Some decisions in life you have to make based on clarity, but also you also have to understand things about yourself. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you think the way that you think? What about you has brought you to this place? And because of that, I started embracing therapy. As a matter of fact, I remember the first session that I had, and she was an American Nigerian therapist, and for the most part, after the session, right, after the first few sessions, we'll just go in and start talking about other things. But so I feel like she understood me because of her African background, but at the same time, this is someone that went to school for this, right? So she understands how to help someone that is in a bind. And I remember telling her, I was crying. She was like, "Why are you crying?" I said, "I never thought I would come to therapy." And she was like, "Why?" I said, in my culture, I would always laugh at people that would say they're going to therapy. I would always, make fun of mental health. And now it's happening to me, and it feels like it's something so serious, because I always thought there's always going to be people around. There will always be people around to talk to. Now, there are people to talk to, and there are so many voices, but I need clarity. And so she was gentle. She was like, "Yeah, I understand, yes, in my culture, on my side, her Nigerian side." And we just had that conversation, and it was helpful, And later on, I started to embrace therapy. I started to embrace talking to someone who is unbiased. Because here's the thing, when you talk to your friends, right, they'll give you advice. When you talk to your partner, when you talk to your parents, when you talk to your siblings, they will give you advice. However, there are some things that require you to do some inner work. You need to go back, way back in time, for you to figure out, why am I doing this now? What about my childhood? What about my thought pattern? What about my belief is making me do what I'm doing now? Or it's making me make these decisions, or that it's making me go through this path. So doing inner work is very, very important. And I recommend therapy, professional therapy. And this is something that I would wish for most of us to have on our New Year's resolution. And if you're not doing it this year, please, by all means, try writing it down next year. And there's so many places, there's so many clinics out there that offer, therapy, that offer counseling, so please take advantage of that. And I see a lot of them in Dar es Salaam. And please, I won't recommend any, but if you ask me privately, if you send me an email, you send me a DM, I will recommend you my therapist here in Dar es Salaam. But please make this one of your goals for this new year. And the reason why we need to do the inner work is because we need to discover. There's a lot of discovery that needs to take place. And you will go through the process of learning what it is that you're all about. And some of the things that are not good for you, you have to unlearn them. There are things that worked for you when you were 15. They don't work for you now that you are in your 20s, you are in your 30s, you are in your 40s, you are in your 50s. The coping mechanism that you had then, they don't work for you now. Here's an example, and it may not be a perfect example, but imagine you come from time travel, right? So imagine you've time traveled and you came from the era where people fought with swords, and that was the only thing that was available. And now all of a sudden we have guns, right? And so you've just teleported from your era, and now you're in this new era where people have guns. Do you think that sword is going to help you? I mean, it might, but you'll only be able to tackle a few things compared to a person with a gun. And I know it's a terrible example to use, but it's the easiest thing that came to mind. So please do the inner work. You really have to discover the reasons why you do what you do, and everything that you learned that helped you become who you are. And maybe you lived in an environment that forced you to live on survival mode, or fight or flight mode. And maybe that era is done, maybe that season is done in your life, and now you are to live in a season of thriving. So how do you thrive? How do you accept thriving? If you're constantly in a fight or flight mode, you will not be able to thrive, because your brain does not understand that, your body does not understand that, everything about you does not understand that. So you actually have to accept that seasons change, and some things that you learned growing up, they have to change as you get older. As seasons change, you have to change. So it's okay to discover, and it may be very tough. I'm not gonna lie to you. Discovering why you do some of the things that you do is crazy, but also unlearning those things is tough, because first of all, you'll get defensive. You'll be like, what do you mean? So this was wrong? It may not have been wrong then. It was what you needed in order for you to cope with whatever situation you are going through at the time. But now that you are no longer in that situation, what you learned does not fit your new life, your new season, right? So you have to unlearn that and learn a new skill, in order for you to survive, to live, to thrive in your new season. Another thing is, when you go through therapy, you learn to have compassion and grace, one on yourself and on other people. Listen, when you go to therapy, and most of us are going to have, first of all, no lie, most of us are going to have issues with the issues that will surface will have to come from our families of origin. Whether you are raised by a single parent or you are raised by a two-parent household, you're raised in a two-parent household, you're going to have issues that will surface. Some of the way that you're coping in life will be because of the way your father did ABC, the way your mother did ABC, the way either of them said something to you, or your grandparents, whoever raised you. Your environment, your upbringing, your nature, your nurture, your all of that, your spirituality, whether you went to church or you did not go to church, all of that formed who you are. So you're going to have to learn to have compassion on those people. You're going to have to learn to understand your mother probably is a 20-year-old person, even at her age right now. Like, she may be 50, 60, right? But she probably got stuck at 20 years old. So she doesn't know how to deal with the life right now at her age. Or your father was a 15-year-old boy. Maybe he never grew past that age. Just physically he grew, chronologically he grew, but mentally, spiritually, maybe that's where he got stuck. So you get to understand that, you know what, at that age when you thought your mom or your dad were A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and now that you're of that age, if you have or if you haven't, by having this knowledge will help you understand they're just human beings. They are mom and dad, but they're human beings first. So you learn to have compassion and grace on them and your family members and your environment and whoever taught you whatsoever. And you also learn to have compassion and grace on yourself every time you do something. Because for some of us, right, I had to learn to have compassion and grace on myself, because you're constantly trying to overachieve. You constantly feel like you have to strive for something, you have to work, you have to do this, and it's just being able to relax and be like, it's okay. That means you're allowing God to take over, to take control, because there's some things that you just want to push, and God is like, no, not now, wait. And that period of waiting and that no can make you throw tantrums like a child, like a 2-year-old. But that's because of whatever was taught or built in your system when you were growing up. And now that you're maturing and you're learning to let go of control, to not control the outcomes, to allow God, the universe, the life, as long as you've prayed, right? As long as you know you've written down certain things and you need clarity, you're allowing yourself to have grace on yourself and be like, it's okay. I know this will work out and I will do what I am called to do. I will not be lazy. I will not, give excuses. I will do my part when it comes, but I will not overdo it. I will not use whatever method that I used before in my new season. So you learn grace and compassion on yourself. Another thing is that you learn to accept yourself, and you learn to accept other people for who they are, for where they are. And you also learn forgiveness. So some of us have struggled in different ways because of acceptance. We're all different, right? We are all different. We have different temperaments. We have different ways of thinking. We have different upbringing. So we're different. When you go date somebody, they're going to be very different from you. When you have your supervisor, you have a co-worker, they're going to be completely different from you. So you learn to accept them for who they are, their personalities and all of that. If they have ways in them that are not that are affecting you in one way or the other, feel free to communicate that with love and compassion, right? Help them understand. If they're not understanding, or if they're becoming defensive and all that, you learn to put boundaries, safe boundaries, to protect yourself, to protect your inner work, to protect your spirit, to protect your energy. So you learn to do things the right way instead of bashing and bad mouthing people and doing all the unnecessary things. When you go through therapy, when you go through learning the right way, through a professional, somebody that understands psychology, that understands, spirituality, that understands all of these different things, the challenges of upbringing, the attachment styles. When you learn all of these things the right way, you will learn to accept people for who they are and where they are in life at that moment. And you learn to forgive them, but you also learn to accept yourself and forgive yourself, because we change. There are things that, have you ever had that experience where you go back to your old diary or some of your homework, right? You go back through your notebooks from school and you're like, what was that? You read a question and you read an answer and you're like, listen, was I this much of a bullshitter? Really? Because at the time you're like, listen, I'm going to write because I need to get those 5 marks. I need to get those 5 points, right? And at your age right now, you look back, you're like, dude, you should have just stopped. You should have just said, I don't know, and left it blank. Why did you have to bullshit through this whole thing? So you learn to accept yourself and you learn to forgive yourself, because at that time you needed those 5 points. So you did whatever it is that you could to get those 5 points. So you forgive yourself and you accept yourself. So after you go through this therapy session, however many sessions that will be necessary for you, you will learn to have self-love. You will learn to fully love yourself. It's a work in progress. It's not 100%, but you will learn to love yourself. And loving yourself will help you to build safe boundaries. You will have non-negotiables. For me, one of my non-negotiables after therapy 2 years back, so I went to therapy in 2024, right? And I had to learn to have non-negotiables. And for me, my non-negotiable and my boundaries, I was able to pinpoint the people, the areas, the situations that were not safe for me, and manipulators. Like, as soon as I smell manipulation, I was like, no, I'm gonna keep a safe distance from you, because I just realized you're more of a taker, and you feel like someone is coming into your life, and this doesn't mean a relationship, like a sexual partner relationship. It could even be a friend, right? So you realize this friend comes into your life, and when they do come into your life, you'd be like, oh, this person is okay. Maybe they've learned something. Maybe they realize how important we are as friends, and the minute they come into your life, there's going to be a request right after, and you're like, taker. And all that charm and everything was manipulation towards this. And you're like, no, I'm not doing this. And it's okay to have a safe boundary that this is as much as I'm willing to go when it comes to being supportive of this person, because they're human beings, because I am a person that helps. But understanding when the manipulation comes in the forefront, you're like, no, I'm not doing this. This is not happening. And you put down your foot and you lay some ground rules and you do the right thing. So it's really good to go into therapy. And one of the things that I'm still working on, right? Oh my goodness. Once you learn self-love, it's easy to have consistency. You can become more consistent in choosing yourself every single day. Some days it may be tough than others. Some days you may feel some type of way, but it's easy to become consistent when it comes to choosing yourself once you have gone through these steps. When you love yourself, you will always show up for yourself. Consistency means showing up for yourself, right? You will find yourself being consistent in choosing yourself and what works for you, and not in a way of I'm choosing me, I am, ending my relationship with this person and that person, we're no longer friends, I'm cutting this person off, my grandfather is this, my mother is that, my sister is that, my brother is this, my uncle is that, my whatever, my boyfriend, my girlfriend. It's not about that. It's about when things come to you, you get to weigh them and be like, I'll give a simple example, right? A relative comes, they need money. A friend comes, they need money. Before maybe you were a people pleaser and you didn't know you were a people pleaser. Before you thought maybe, your contribution into a friendship or a relationship is money. And then you're like, no, I need to do, you do your inner work and you're like, okay, is love there? If there was no money, if there was none of this, would this person still be there for me? So as you go through all these steps and you get to love yourself and you get to consistently choose yourself, you then learn to, what's the right word that I'm trying to use? You learn to look at things in a magnified lens, right? So when somebody comes to you with a request for money, you can, instead of, again, I say we're not cutting people off, right? We're being wise. And we say, okay, do I have money in my account right now that I can give to this person? Maybe they're requesting 1 million Tanzanian shillings. Do you have 1 million Tanzanian shillings that you can give and still be, safe where you are? Like your finances are good. And the next question you're going to ask yourself is, what if this person doesn't, refund me? Am I going to be okay with losing that 1 million Tanzanian shillings? Would that money be okay for me to lose this friendship? Or will we still be friends, but I'm holding a grudge in my spirit that this person never refunded my money? So you get to be wise and you get to choose yourself. So you try to foresee the future and you say, okay, if this person doesn't refund me, I'm not going to be happy about it and I may have to avoid them. And so you choose yourself, like, you know what, I'm going to meet this person because maybe we work together or because we are friends, we have common friends, we have all of these things, and you choose yourself and say, for my peace of mind, I am willing and able to give them 100,000. If they give it back to me, well and good. If they don't give it back to me, this is my support towards them, right? So you say, hey, I can't give you 1 million at the moment, but I can give you this, and try asking other people, because you cannot be the only person this person has access to. They have other people, so you're not the savior. Now you give them that 100,000 and be like, you know what, when you have the money, you can return it, or you can say it's okay, you don't have to return it, whatever option that works for you. And you give them what you can, knowing fully well you're not drowning because you had to give 1 million to this person. So it's tough. It's really, really tough for most of us, especially in our culture, to accept therapy, to accept help from professionals. But it is important to go through this. If you can, and if you can afford it, please tafadhali, tafuta msaada, tafuta ushauri nasaha. And I know this word ushauri nasaha, back then we heard it a lot when they were doing the HIV campaign. So every time ukisikia ushauri nasaha, you feel like, wait, what? That's how I felt when someone translated counseling and all of that into Swahili for me, that ushauri nasaha. But unahitaji ushauri nasaha. For me, going to my therapist here in Dar es Salaam, I went to her when I felt like the only thing that I could describe to her was, like you know, the thread, right, for knitting. And so all I could see was like a cat was playing with that thread, and it was all in shambles, and it wasn't making sense. So that is where I was when I went to therapy. Nilikuwa nimewaza kama ule uzi ulivyokuwa uko all over the place. That's where my mind was, and nothing was making sense, and I needed things to make sense. So therapy helped me make sense of the things that I needed to do. And mostly, I'm gonna tell you this in closing. When you go to therapy, it's not about the other person. It's not about your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, your uncle, your relatives, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your children. It's about you. Because everybody's going to be a trigger. The question is, what in you gets triggered when this person does A, B, C, D, E, F, G? There's going to be somebody that's going to trigger something in you. The question is, what in you is causing this? So, in closing, ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year once again. And I hope that in your list of things, as you're celebrating this new year, as you're making resolutions that may or may not last, like going to the gym and getting that body perfect for the summer, or whatever it is that you're looking for. You know, some of us have written down the same things over and over and over again, like consistency when it comes to going to the gym, and it's not happening. But by the grace of God, one day it will. And I just hope that you have therapy on your to-do list. I really hope and pray that you have therapy on your to-do list, because it's no longer something fancy when you go to therapy, or it's no longer something to be ashamed of when you go to therapy. It is a necessity for your mental health. You need to understand exactly where someone is in life, that they're doing ABC to you, and how you can deal with that person, with yourself, with other people, and how you can protect your inner peace, your energy. So I love you guys. Happy 2026. Stay safe and go to therapy. Ciao.